Hello, everybody. This is Eileen Nicole, and I am here today. We are just going to go over the news here, and we're going to be talking about Donald Trump and his hot mic incident with the president of El Salvador. And he was talking about how we need to, he needs to build more prisons so that he can send over what he calls homegrowns, and that's basically you and me. And yesterday we were talking about how Donald Trump wants to send over anybody that he wants to quiet anybody that has an opinion about what he's doing. He wants to be able to do whatever he wants, carte blanche, and nobody has any resistance towards it. So this is what we're building up to: autocracy completely installed into the White House. Again, Donald Trump is trying to overthrow the Constitution. This is an outright constitutional civil war, and he has allies in this civil war. And so we, as the proletariat, this is who he's fighting. He's fighting the working class, the proletariat, us. We have to also build an allyship that promotes our best interests and gets us our best resources that we can get, because this president wants to not only install himself and his party, but he wants to make sure that nobody else has any options or chances to challenge the authority that he's in now or later on down the line. And so this is why there's a full out civil war on the Constitution. The Democrats don't view it as a civil war. Many people in the media don't view it as a civil war. They just keep calling it a constitutional crisis, which I think is a big mistake, because this is an actual constitutional crisis. Excuse me, civil war. They're calling it a constitutional crisis, not a constitutional civil war. And that's exactly what it is. And again, there are 5 parts to this civil war that we're fighting, specifically as it deals with what we need to be looking at, or what areas that we have to respond to. We have to respond to the aristocracy that's already that's Donald Trump as the president. There is the oligarchy, who those are men who are backing him, like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Sergey Brin, all these Peter Thiel, all these finance and tech bros. So it's them. And then also it is the legislatures, which is the Republicans and some of those Democrats that are in office, that are allowing these bills, these laws, these pieces of legislation to go through. So the sycophants, basically, the ones that are going to allow Donald Trump to do whatever he wants. Again, carte blanche. And then we have the judiciaries who are allowing him to do these illegal actions. They're allowing it to go through the court. And I think that a part of it is that they don't want to have this on their record, that there was a defiance of authority on their record as it pertains to Donald Trump, and then there was nothing done about it. But there isn't anything that there's not the judge's fault, but they don't want that on the record. I think part of it is that, and then also I believe that they just align with his values or lack thereof. So the judiciaries are also a part of it. And these are and the people that they are against. They said that they're activist judges. The real activist judges are the ones who are going along with what Donald Trump wants. That's who the real activist judges are. And then you have the proletariat that aligns with Donald Trump's values, that align with the system that he's trying to install. So the rogue rank and file. And these are the people who are in alignment. Again, these are the people that voted for Trump, the people that are trolling online, talking about this is what they voted for, that they're okay with what Donald Trump is doing. The people that will vote for him again in 2028, the people that are okay with all of the mess that Donald Trump is doing, the people that are okay with that, that's the rogue rank and file. Okay, so there are 5 aspects to this war that we're fighting and that we're facing. And if we don't take the time to really understand that that's what this is, and that we have to fight these on these particular fronts, then we won't get ahead. We won't have any gain. And then also, I would like to say, in addition to that party, I would say part of the legislation are the Democrats. There are Democrats that are actually, they are actually in alignment with what Donald Trump is doing. So those are also some of the people that are, a part of this constitutional civil war. All right, so we are going to get into what Donald Trump said on the hot mic here. Now, he had the El Salvadorian president come, and so we're going to take a look at that right now. But he said that y'all can listen. Y'all can listen. This is the news report. Oop.
They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games. I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have.
He's so full of shit. He don't obey laws. He don't obey laws. He never has. And his mentor Ray Cohn taught him that. Don't ignore the laws. Him and all the tech bros think like that. They don't think that the laws apply to them because they have money and they have wealth and they have the silver spoon pedigree. So they don't think that they have to abide by any laws.
Grown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that, Steve.
Now, he says that, but remember when he said about the migrants, that the only migrants that they want to take are the ones that
haven't filed your tax.
They only want to take them.
Taxes yet? It's easy to file for free.
Jeez. Anyway, so, but the story is
just snap a pic of your docs and upload them from your device. We put your info in the right places.
So anyway, so this article goes on to say that Donald Trump, let me see here. Donald Trump was heard speaking about the possibility of jailing U.S. citizens in El Salvador with President Nayib Bukele. Newsweek has contacted the U.S. Department of State via email for comment. Bukele, I think that's how you say his name. So Bukele, let's see here. Bukele. Okay. So Bukele, who has agreed to continue jailing immigrants removed from the United States, was at the White House on Monday. So yeah, he said that he's not going to remove people from the White House. Now that's Trump saying that he doesn't believe that, or that he wants to make sure that he sends over people, but we got to obey the law. We have to obey the law. We have to obey the law. No, you don't, because if he was obeying the law, he wouldn't be there in the first place. Anyway, so let's go to this here. This is the actual news report from MSNBC.
Crisis, as members of the Trump administration today, sitting in the Oval Office, say they will defy the United States Supreme Court's order to facilitate the return of a Maryland father who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador. As Trump himself says that he wants American citizens to meet the very same fate. In a photo spray today with the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, Trump sitting by and smiling as Bukele claims that he has no way to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a father of 3 who was in the United States legally before he was deported. Trump saying instead he should be congratulated.
Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that?
Because he's not a criminal.
Trump's defiance was echoed and celebrated by his advisors in the room, who say that despite the ruling of the United States Supreme Court, the cabinet will not be working to send Kilmar Abrego Garcia home to the U.S. to his family. Attorney General Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio all saying that they will not be doing anything to bring Garcia home and that they are not required to do so. They went on to accuse Abrego Garcia of being a member of the gang MS-13, completely contradicting their own lawyers who have admitted in court that there were no grounds to deport him and that his deportation was a result of, quote, an administrative error. The Supreme Court ordered last week that the U.S. government must facilitate his return. But Trump didn't stop there. He continued in his embrace of this defiance, going on to say that he is open to sending American citizens to the same notorious El Salvadorian prison as Abrego Garcia is in, which is illegal. U.S. citizens cannot be deported from the U.S.
They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games. I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
How many illegal criminals are you planning on exporting to El Salvador? And President Bukele, how many are you willing to take from the U.S.?
As many as possible. And I just asked the president, it's this massive complex that he built, jail complex. I said, can you build some more of them, please?
Trump's open defiance of the United States Supreme Court is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. NBC News White House correspondent Von Hilliard is here. Also joining us, former top official at the Department of Justice, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman is here. Former federal judge Michael Ludick will join us in a couple minutes. Von Hilliard, I start with you.
When we watched here inside of the Oval Office just earlier this afternoon, Nicole, was striking not just because the President of the United States was there, but members of his cabinet, including his own Attorney General. And the U.S. Constitution makes it clear, the 8th Amendment, that cruel and unusual punishment is not allowed inside of the United States. And just minutes before the two men sat down there in the Oval Office, there was actually video that was rolled in real time, not from American media outlets who did not have access at that point in time, but it was actually from President Bukele's social media team that was live streaming video in which President Trump was talking about the videos that El Salvadorians had put out showing the detainees, the deportees getting off aircraft from the United States with bent over, with their hands shackled behind their backs and led fiercely into those mega prisons. And the President of the United States said that people were eating them up and that they appreciated them because that he was taking criminals seriously. And while the President Trump was sitting next to President Bukele referred to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father, as a terrorist. And there was no pushback from the president or anybody inside of that room. And I think this gets at the heart of the Supreme Court here that is ordered his facilitation to be returned to the United States. We expect here over the course of the next hour, the government, based off of the district court's determination, must provide to the court an update on efforts to facilitate his return to the United States. That's due by 5 p.m. Eastern time. And as to what the government is actually doing to facilitate his return, well, over the course of that nearly hour inside of the Oval Office, there wasn't a single request made by the president or any member of the cabinet to have Kilmar Abrego Garcia return to the United States as the Supreme Court ordered. And instead, the question was left up to President Bukele, who made it clear that he had no intent of returning the Maryland man back to the United States.
And that's what I'm saying. He tried to make it seem like, oh my gosh, I can't sneak somebody in. You're talking right next to the president of the United States. What are you talking about? So they're going to keep this guy over here, even though they have no idea what he did. This right here is autocracy, authoritarianism. This right here is what the Trump administration's plans to do to many Americans. They don't care if they're wrong or they're right. They don't care. They just want this person out of prison because they said so. All because they said so. So they're the judge, jury, and executioner, because we already know if it's a prison that is this brutal going to El Salvador, his life is at risk. But they still have him over there like they don't care. They don't care. They don't care at all. But this is going to continue. This is going to happen to every American that opposes their agenda. If you don't get on your knees and bow to Donald Trump, this is what you're going to be expecting this to come to a neighborhood near you, because this is what's about to happen to most people in America.
Vaughn, let me ask you.
And by the way, I just want to say there was that big protest on April 5th, that the hands-off protest. Pretty soon, there will not be any, we won't have any agency to even do that, a peaceful protest or speak out or in any kind of way. If this administration is saying, oh, well, we can put you into an El Salvadorian prison, or we can put you in Guantanamo Bay, we can do that if we say so. You don't have to have a trial. You don't have to have, now, again, this is all under that stupid Patriot Act. This is also part of the Patriot Act. And so I suspect that the judges are going to participate in allowing this type of thing to happen because of that stupid Patriot Act from 9/11 that Bush put into play. Okay, and the last Republican that did us all dirty. But anyway, let's continue here.
Something else that's going on. This is Senator Chris Van Hollen earlier today describing the inability of Congress, a co-equal branch of government, to get information about their own constituents.
This is unsustainable. I mean, the Trump administration's position, in my view, is absolutely unsustainable, as is the position of the president of El Salvador, if he's going to say that he's not going to release this man who our own courts, 9-0 on the Supreme Court, have said really should be coming home now. They are clearly just snubbing their nose at the courts, including the Supreme Court. And the courts, in my view, need to exercise their ability to sanction people who ignore court orders.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
Von Hilliard, what does the White House say to Senator Van Hollen?
Well, the question that the senator from Maryland wanted was a meeting with President Bukele, and that meeting never came. And he had suggested that he is going to go to Maryland himself, or go to El Salvador himself, to the prison, to try to gain access and make the statement clear that the answers must be provided to the U.S. Congress. And I think one of the parts of this here was, I was actually called up an administration official this afternoon, making, I guess, with the question of why not just return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States, go through the immigration judicial process to determine whether he should stay in U.S. detention facility or be deported, because it was an immigration judge in 2019 who ordered his release inside of the United States and not to be returned back to El Salvador, because the immigration court suggested that he would potentially be a target of a gang in El Salvador if he were to be returned. And this administration official who I talked to told me, quote, the administration doesn't want him back. Why go through the process to bring him back? Which again hits at the heart of the question also that the president suggested was the potential of sending, quote, homegrown individuals, US born citizens to El Salvador. The president has a willing partner who is willing to detain these individuals, and yet clearly has no interest making the case, as Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff inside of the Oval Office this afternoon said, it would be, quote, arrogant of the United States to tell another foreign leader what they should do within their own sovereign territory, making the case it is no longer within the U.S.'s jurisdiction to request or order President Bukele to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia or anybody who the U.S. may down the line ship and deport to El Salvador from its mega prison system.
I mean, Vaughn, that's nonsense. I mean, the answer to your source, why go through the hassle to bring him back, is because by a ruling of 9-0, the Supreme Court said so. And clearly, sitting next to Donald Trump, he is Donald Trump's puppet when it comes to how to deal with people we deport there. He'll do whatever Donald Trump tells him to do. Donald Trump told him to build more prisons, and he didn't seem too upset about that. What is the actual reason why they're openly defying a 9-0 ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court?
I think that, number one, you're looking at an attorney general and a president of the United States who are willfully resisting the orders of the judicial branch. We are watching that play out here in real time. I think the second part of that is this administration official told me that they have the evidence that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is, in fact, an MS-13 leader and was rightfully deported to El Salvador, to which I pushed back, saying, why not present that evidence to us in the media?
Give the evidence.
In fact, that this individual is not a sympathetic figure and should have been on the streets of the United States or in Maryland for the last 6 years, like he has with his family, then turn over that evidence. And yet that information has not been provided. And over the course of the last weeks, Nicole, let's be clear, they have had the opportunity in multiple court filings and before a judge to make the case that Kilmar Abrego Garcia should not be in the United States and it was rightfully deported under the Alien Enemies Act. And yet they have not provided any further evidence outside of what was the anonymous informant back in 2019 that suggested that he was, in fact, an MS-13 gang leader. And I think that that is where a lot of these question marks go. But in the meantime, when we're talking about the power of the president, to your question, Nicole, in so many ways, we are watching him not only go on the attack in the trade war against some of our closest allies, but in the case of President Bukele, it was a year ago that Don Jr. was at his inauguration. Matt Gaetz was at his inauguration. And in some situations, he has found a willing partner who is able to go forward, despite calling himself the world's coolest dictator, this being President Bukele. This is somebody who the president of the United States sees as a much more willing partner and ally of the United States than some of our previous closest allies who he has gone forcefully on the attack of during this trade war in these preceding weeks.
This is some wild times. I mean, it really is. It really is. So let's go on to this story here. We're going to talk a little bit more about it or see another report on it. But I think really ultimately,
staying on this topic, El Salvador's president, as we reported,
we have to really make plans now. Like we don't have a very large window to respond back to this. I mean, we've already lost time. The Democrats are increasingly becoming the party that is the do nothing party, because they seem to have allowed this bully to beat them up on the playground, and they're acting like they have no recourse or they don't have any options to make any moves. And I'm just like, you do have options. You can make a move. So there has been no counter legislation entered. There has been no directives from the Democrats telling the proletariat what we should be doing, and there is no place where we should all be meeting. It's all over the place. So we are going to have to do it ourselves. There isn't going to be someone that's going to come in and save us. We have to do the work ourselves. And again, I told you there are 5 different levels to this whole war, what I call the constitutional civil war. It's the autocracy, who is Donald Trump, the oligarchy, who is the finance and the tech bros, the legislators, the sycophants going along with Donald Trump's plan, the judiciaries, the activist judges who are actually allowing Donald Trump to go through with this plan, and then the proletariat, the rogue rank and file, who are really there making sure that there's still support for this bullshit agenda that Donald Trump is pushing. So I just feel like we have to get together, and there has to be, we do need a plan. But first we need to build our community, because if we don't have people actively working with the plan, then it's pointless. Anyway, so let's take a look here at this other video.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. Extra amazing because Crystal's back. It's good to see
Thank
you.
Thank you. It's good to be back here in the chair. We have a lot of stuff in the show. But actually, before we even get to the show bar and all the stuff that's going on there, we have some pretty significant show announcements about things that we are up to. So first of all, you guys know we've been doing this like ad hoc Friday. We've been calling it a mini show with whoever can show up. We were able to get all four of us together last Friday, which was super cool. Sagar was able to join. It's been me and Ryan and Emily, whoever can sort of join. So we have decided, thanks to you guys' support out there making this happen, that we are going to officially make a Friday show a thing.
That's right.
So going forward, expanding out to the full 5 weekdays.
To make sure that there's 5 days a week form, be able to deliver the show and subscribe, hit the subscribe button. And when we launched, just penciling, budget, equipment, and all these other things, state-of-the-art stuff that is running.
Is going to join us. Don't know if you guys checked out. Sent somewhere around at this point about 250 migrants into that prison. We now know that approximately 90% of them, in spite of being told that they were gang members and the worst of the worst, 90% have no criminal record. We have learned some of the details of those individuals. And one of those individuals in particular, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the administration admitted that they sent him there in error. The Supreme Court then came in and said, you got to try to get this guy back. You have to facilitate his release. They are just completely stonewalling. They're pretending like the Supreme Court actually sided with them and said they don't have to do anything. So a lot of questions about what the response from Bukele would be, how Trump would interact with him, etc. But before any of that occurred, the two of them, Trump and Bukele, were actually caught on a hot mic with Trump, and you have to listen carefully, but Trump telling Bukele that next he wants to send to his prisons the quote unquote homegrowns, and that Bukele may need to build 5 more of those facilities to house the U.S. citizens that Trump now wants to send to that notorious CCOT facility. Let's take a listen to how that went down.
Homegrown criminals next. Yeah, I said homegrowns are next. The homegrowns built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right. It's not big enough. Oh, yeah, come on.
And it wasn't only in this hot mic moment. Apparently, the El Salvador press was there, but the whole pool wasn't. I don't know where that stream came from, but they were streaming that live, and obviously we all.
It was the El Salvadorian government. It wasn't even the El Salvadorian media. Now, why exactly El Salvadorian government is allowed to live stream straight from the Oval Office? That's beyond me. That's probably the tertiary amount of concerns, as well as Mr. Bukele's outfit that was happening. You're absolutely right. There were a number of comments made there by President Trump in the Oval Office, very defiant on the Abrego Garcia case, as well as proposing on multiple occasions sending U.S. citizens to this prison. Let's take a listen.
Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You have no credibility. Please go ahead.
I promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan to ask for it?
But the Supreme Court is asking to.
And what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
in our favor.
In our favor, against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games. I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
So you can see there not only doubling down, but the most significant comment made from Bukele was saying, quote, what did he say? I don't have the power to bring back Abrego Garcia. This is where it is obviously preposterous. Bukele is getting paid $6 million from the United States government. Furthermore, he has literal unilateral authority over who goes in and out of CCOT, so he actually could release him if he could. And this is one where the government and Stephen Miller saying there, oh, it was 9-0. I mean, he is correct in that it's 9-0 by saying that it is 9-0 in not ordering it in the same way the district judge said you have to go get him back. But it was very clear about the facilitation of return. And what was it? We turned it over to the district court where there continues to be adjudication over specifically the lengths and the process through which the United States must return Abrego Garcia. It is clear cut. It is beyond obvious. The state admitted in its court filing, Abrego Garcia should not have been sent to El Salvador. Period. End of story. We can talk all day long about the hold on the deportation order, etc., but it is clear as day. He had a hold for deportation. He was sent there by their own admission. It was a quote unquote mistake. Stephen Miller has now claimed that it was a mistake to admit that it was a mistake. Right. And that is not true. That fired Solicitor General who said that in a court filing, apparently I was actually reading from a legal expert that he has a decent enough case for defamation actually against the government because they're claiming that he basically lied in a court filing.
Jonathan Turley, who is a Republican, Trump sympathetic Fox News kind of a guy, who was like, he's got a case for defamation. Yeah, the dude that they fired because he admitted in court that this was a mistake, which also wasn't just admitted in court. It also, as Sagar said, was part of this court filing. He's been there for 15 years. He served in the same or similar role under the first Trump administration. He has been a reliable advocate for whatever the government's position has been. So, Stephen Miller called him a saboteur.
That's right. And a Democrat.
As if he was in there intentionally trying to blow up this case. I just want to read for everybody because what Stephen Miller is portraying here and what Republicans are trying to portray the Supreme Court decision as is just total and complete garbage. Let me read to you the specific language of this order that came down from the Supreme Court. They say the rest of the district court's order remains in effect, but requires clarification. That's what they're holding their whole thing on, is this line that it requires clarification. The order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. The intended scope of the term effectuate in the district's court order is, however, unclear and may exceed the district court's authority. The district court should clarify its directive with due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs. So they didn't even say, don't effectuate, or that was wrong. They're saying, we want some clarification from the district court here. But they said incredibly clearly that the government needs to facilitate the release. And they also tell the government that it needs to be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken and the prospect of further steps. The government has completely stonewalled here. They're lying about what the order actually said. And just think about it, like taking the legalese out of it. From a human perspective, if you fuck up, you try to fix it.
That's right.
This is a fuck up of massive life-altering proportions. We have no idea at this point what the condition of this man is. He's been sent into this prison, known for human rights abuses, for withholding food. We know that an extraordinary number of detainees there have actually died while they're in custody. This is a horrible place to be. that he has been wrongly sent to. And not just him, by the way. Of the 238 original immigrants who were sent there, as I mentioned, 90% no criminal record. 5 had felony arrest records. 5. And we were told these were the worst of the worst. So on top of all of that, what we've been warning about is, hey, if you can throw these people into this dungeon for life with no due process, this isn't just about what they can do to immigrants. This is about what they can do to anyone. This is about all of our rights.
Yep, exactly.
What could have kept them since they're—
This is what I'm saying. This is a test to the proletariat to see, what are y'all going to do about it? What are y'all going to do? Are y'all going to get out there in the streets? What are y'all going to do? And I feel like if we don't do something, if we don't say anything, if we don't stand up, this is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And there is no way for us to really do anything other than to get together and put a plan together. I have ideas about what we should be doing, but at the end of the day, we can't do anything without an actual movement. And so I know that people are like, oh yeah, Bernie Sanders is going out on this, he's going out on this Fight the Oligarchy tour, but what about the instructions? What are we supposed to be doing with that? Then what? You go to the Fight the Oligarchy tour, and then what? Because if that's it, that's not good enough. It's not good enough. We have to come to an agreement about how to respond. And again, there's 5 different things that we're fighting all at the same time. This is a constitutional civil war. So there's the autocracy, which is the president, Donald Trump, and he's, out here doing things carte blanche, and he's making sure that he is the one that is making these bold and illegal moves. So he's trying to install this autocracy in full. This is an active coup. It's a constitutional civil war. The second stage is the oligarchy, which is the finance and the tech bros and any other type of bro that has a bunch of money, right? These retail bros. And then we have the legislatures, the sycophants who are going along right with what Donald Trump is trying to do. We also have the judiciaries who are activists, the real activist judges who are allowing some of these bold and illegal moves to go through the court. And so it's going through unchecked. The only way you can do is, even in an appeal one went through the judiciary, the top court. And then the last part is the proletariat, the rank and file. The rogue rank and file, the Republicans and the Democrats that believe that what Donald Trump is doing, the independents too, anybody that believes that Donald Trump is doing the right thing with this economy and with our society, he's mishandling everything. And he's nobody's friend. He's not even a friend to his cabinet. He's not a friend, he's not a confidant, he's not anything. The only thing that he wants to do is take. And he's going to take as much as he can from the proletariat. All right, well, I will see you guys later. I'm going to go ahead and end this live here, but I will see you guys in a little bit where we're going to talk about the economy a little bit. And we're going to go over money and how that's working out in today's world, even though Donald Trump is mishandling everything that's put in his hands. I mean, he's got to be the most irresponsible piece of shit I've ever seen in my life, as old as he is. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye.